Welcome to Keep Painting Those Miniatures. Today I am painting Madame Sybelle from the Shadows of Redchapel with Seamus. Like other models in the set, I made a custom base. Today I used wall filler and some small oxide scavenged. Using my fantastic airbrush, I primed him black with Vallejo Primer Black, oddly enough. For the actual painting of the base, I went with Minotaur Bark, then I picked out the rocks with Vallejo Game Color Somber Grey, that was dry brushed mostly. Then I did a bit of cleanup with some more bark around the rocks because got grey everywhere. Then I did a final very light dry brush with Reaper Concrete Grey, just on the rocks. And that was how I left the base. As for the models in the set, I primed with Vallejo Primer Black. Probably a poor choice, should have gone white or grey, but I went with black. As with the other models, I started with the clothes. I went with Minotaur Angelic Blood, I'm going to say. That was with the airbrush. I actually did a lot better than I usually do and got it mostly on the clothes, so high five to me. I learned from my time dealing with the bells and decided to paint the stockings and then fill in the skin. So next was the stockings. Reaper Night Sky Blue was what I used. Next was the skin. I used Reaper Caucasian Flesh, as I do with most models. Not because of any particular reason, just it tends to wash a lot better than some of the others. Maiden Flesh is also pretty good, but in this case, Caucasian Flesh. I had to do about 3 or 4 coats of the Caucasian Flesh to actually get the mold to be opaque in colour. A lot of the black bleeds through the Caucasian Flesh, I'm sure you've seen. I also did some cleanup of the clothes. Caucasian Flesh goes over other things too, so yes, I used the Angelic Blood to clean up the lines on the clothing. The bells already had a blonde, red head, and what are they called? Black hair? Black hair. So I needed something different from Madame Sybelle. I thought she looks old, she reminds me of me mum a bit, so I went with white hair. Not my mum's got white hair, but, that's what I did. I figured I could ink it a bit and bring it down from like a high sort of white to a lower white, but yeah, that's what I did. The whip was next. Initially I put a coat of Minotaur Bark on it. I could have used just the black undercoat, but I felt that it needed to look leathery, maybe leather, yeah. I also did a dry brush of Army Painter Gunmetal on the whip to try and make it more metallic. Here I am filling in the legging holes with skin. She had a lot of holes. I know that's a good thing in some cases, but not so good in this case. It was difficult to locate them all, and I ended up sort of doing a couple of passes. I ended up using Vallejo Game Color Somber Grey for the whip handle. You just sort of pick a colour, and that's what I went with. I felt the boots didn't really stand out from the leggings. I ended up dry brushing the boots with P3 Menoth White Highlight to bring them up in colour. I figure I was going to probably dry brush them or ink them or do something later? Guess we'll find out. As usual, I had to go through a cleanup phase. It's best to do these phases as you go, or else you just end up with a real mess towards the end and throw the model at the wall. As well as the boots, I did a bit of a dry brush of the white highlight across the model just to give it a bit more shading. I figured that I'd ink it back down again afterwards. At this point I decided to assemble the model. It was sort of at the point whereby I decided that I couldn't get a cohesive look on it without actually seeing it all together. I was also worried about basically the arm joints. I took one off during the painting process because it was just silly, and I knew I was going to have to fix it. I wanted to brighten up the model. I used Reaper Rusty Red and dry brushed it a bit over the clothing. I got some on the skin, so that necessitated another cleanup. I wanted the leg bows to stand out a little bit. I used Vallejo Game Color Warlord Purple to bring them out. It didn't really hold. For whatever reason, it was not the best to paint on, but yeah, them's the break. Here I am inking the skin. I got annoyed at this point that the arm lines were showing. You'll probably see me sort of ponder it for a while in the video. I inked her clothes with Army Painter Ink Red. I inked the whip and the boots with Army Painter Ink Blue. I wanted just to differentiate out the whip a little bit, and the boots were looking sort of grey, and I figured I wanted to make them more blue, and yeah. I tried to get creative and highlight over the hair. I think I failed miserably, so it ended up just being inked back down again. At this point I was fed up with the seam in her arm, and I fixed it. Not the good way, but a way. I ended up using blue tack, or poster putty as you Americans call it. Yeehaw! And yeah, just sort of cleaned it up and used that. I also used that for the holes in the base, but don't tell anybody. Shh. Finally, I put her on the base. This wasn't really as clean as it should have been. I ended up doofing with the holes. Both the pins I put in her feet are basically were at sort of 45 degrees to her feet, and I sort of didn't realize at that point that her body was tilted. It's a strange thing. She's sort of tilted. I'll put it that way. So the pins that come straight out of her feet tend to point at 45 degrees. And that sort of necessitated redoing the holes, and that's where I used that blue tack that I mentioned. And yeah, a little bit of cleanup and a little bit of brown paint, and it was okay. There's still a little bit of shine. Blue tack has a certain shine under the paint, but it worked out okay. And here she is, Madame Sybelle. Woo! This is a little bit less nice than I wanted it, but she does sort of look evil. And keep painting those miniatures, people.